Hello, this is John Ramsey, and this is My Big Comeback. I've got a great guest today. Sheriff Tommy Ford is in the studio with me. And I appreciate you coming, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
Thank you
Thanks for
so
having me.
much.
Appreciate you.
You know, on all these interviews, I really like to get to know the person. So tell me how Tommy Ford got into law enforcement.
So my mom probably regrets this to this day, but when I was about 5 years old, I grew up over in Port St. Joe, and she bought me a trooper outfit. And she let me walk around downtown with the meter guy, the meter maid, and drive in the Cushman cart, making sure people paid their traffic stuff. And I'm like, I think I'm hooked. But I've always been interested in law enforcement, and I was a volunteer fireman in Port St. Joe, and really wanted to serve my community in that way. And it's a lot about service, but it's also a little bit about driving fast and
the thrill, the adrenaline,
of it, the adrenaline rush of it. So I think all of us would be fibbing if we said it's all about the service, although that's a great part of it. And the longer you do this and the more you get into your career, you see how every day you have an opportunity to help people and affect people's lives when they're having the worst day of their life. So that's what I really have come to enjoy about it a whole lot.
Yeah. So were you like before Bay County, where were you at?
So I went to the University of West Florida and got a degree in accounting, and was looking at federal law enforcement. Accounting majors were in high demand with them investigatively because most crimes are connected to money, and interned with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement while I was there. And when I graduated from college, had an opportunity to get an entry-level job with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Worked part-time with the Tallahassee Police Department while I was in this entry-level job with FDLE. And then a couple years later, I had an opportunity to become a special agent with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Yeah. Did that for about 16 years. I was over in Jacksonville and St. Augustine, worked on drug task forces over there, and had an opportunity to move back to Panama City. With if you grow up in Port St. Joe, you feel like Panama City is your hometown.
The big city. Yeah.
If you want to go to the dentist, buy clothes or anything back then, you would come to what we call Panama. So had an opportunity to come back and supervise the field office here, which covers the 6 counties in the 14th Judicial Circuit. And in doing that, I developed a relationship with the Bay County Sheriff's Office and a friendship and a professional and personal with Sheriff Frank McKeithen.
Yeah.
And in 2009,
your predecessor.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yes, sir. 2009, he asked me to join him at the sheriff's office. So I left FDLE and became an operations commander at the sheriff's office. And then about a year later, his chief deputy, which was J.B. Holloway, who was previously the beach police chief, he retired, and I became Sheriff McKeithen's chief deputy. That was around 2010.
That's great. That's great. So explain to me, FDLE is like, it's a state agency, of course.
It is. Mm-hmm.
So more or less investigative
It's the investigative arm for the state of Florida.
Kind of like Georgia has GBI.
Exactly.
Same thing.
Exactly.
Same thing. It's
yes,
the
sir.
state level investigative services.
Some states have a state police where they have, the highway patrol and investigative arm under one agency. In Florida, we have the Florida Highway Patrol, which is under the Department of Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. And then FDLE is a standalone agency.
They're not connected. Two separate agencies.
Two separate agencies. And FDLE, in addition to criminal investigations and protective operations for the governor, has our what's called the Florida Crime Information Center, which is the network where we share criminal history information. They have very importantly, the forensic crime lab system throughout the state, where we at local agencies send our evidence for processing for DNA and fingerprints and
that all goes through FDLE.
That's FDLE, yeah. So it was a great career. I loved the agency and still do, but there's just something about being at that local level where you can have the impact and respond to crimes in progress and whatever the day brings you. As far as what happens in that day, that's a critical incident. That's what you're involved in.
And the Sheriff's Department here in Bay County, of course, operates the jail.
Yes, sir.
Is that the same in every county, or is that just a Bay County thing?
There's 67 sheriffs in Florida, and 57 sheriffs have the county jails, and there's about 10 that the county commission run or that contract with a private entity.
Like I know Jacksonville's different, aren't they? Aren't they one of the ones that are different?
The way Jacksonville is different is they're a consolidated government, so the whole county is under the Jacksonville, or as far as law enforcement jurisdiction, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, but they run their jail. But there's even some jails around here. Jackson County Okaloosa County, the county commissions run the jail.
Really? Really?
But it's
So
primarily
it's
a sheriff.
at the discretion of the county how they want to operate
Yeah,
the
yeah.
jail. You know, I remember when Sheriff Tennell was sheriff, I spoke at the Sheriff's Association years ago, and they had I was speaking on school violence and stuff. We used to have a program called the Guts Program, and we went into, I think it was spoke to over 400,000 kids before it was over with, all over the state of Florida, Georgia, and Alabama, and we were talking about school violence. But so I was there to talk about how to prevent school violence in schools.
Great.
And while I was there speaking, they had the bloodhound demonstration, because there used to be a family that raised bloodhounds, and they donated one to every sheriff's department. Do they still do that? Do you know?
So I don't know if that family does, but we still use bloodhounds quite a bit.
It was
and
amazing. It was amazing.
We've got a program, I'll put in a little plug for it. It's called Scent Evidence Canine. And if you have, you or your loved one, people with dementia, Alzheimer's, autism, anybody with special needs that may wander and get lost, we have a kit where we take a scent sample and put it in a sealed jar, and the family member keeps that. And then if that person were to go missing, walk off and unable to be found, our bloodhounds will respond, and they get a good fresh scent from that. And amazing work that they do in tracking people.
That is amazing. What a great idea, because I've seen that come up a couple of times the last couple of years where they had a silver alert and somebody was lost, and that would be a very handy thing.
Absolutely.
This particular case they were talking about when I was there years ago, and I'm afraid I don't remember the name, but it was a little boy that was kidnapped, and the bloodhound actually tracked him from his bus stop to where he had been abducted, and they were able to rescue the child because of, so it followed the scent, and he was taken in a car. And the bloodhound, but it was in proximity to his bus stop, but they were able to track it down, and stuff like that is amazing.
It is
amazing that a bloodhound can do that. But what a powerful tool for the sheriff's department.
We look at high tech tools, and sometimes we forget
sometimes
our most basic.
The God tools are the strongest. Yeah, a
We've
lot
got
of
a bloodhound
technology.
team out at the jail.
Yeah,
That's typically there in case we had an escape.
You need Old Red. If they have to break him out, you have to break him out and use him.
We have Miss Peggy as well.
Yeah, Miss Peggy is the Old Red of the Bay County Sheriff's Department. So in looking at the history, we're about the same age. Which I had heard that you were younger. I had heard wrong. You're 56. I'm 57. So when I moved to Bay County, I was 12 years old. It was 1980. Lavelle Pitts had just become the sheriff. Okay. And so I looked up the history, looking at some of this. He was sheriff for 9 years. And then, of course, there's a year in there. Is it Richard Seltzer? Did I see? Or someone? I guess he was an interim.
Bill Lewis was the
was it? He was the interim sheriff. I didn't get that right. And then Guy Tennell was there for 13 years, 90 to 2003. Frank McKeithen, 13 years, about the same length of time. And then you've been with us 9 years as our sheriff,
August
and
1st,
counting,
9 years,
and counting. So to beat the record, you'd have to stay sheriff as long as, I'm going way back in history now. Doc Daffin is the longest serving Bay County sheriff. If I've got my information right, he was sheriff for 19 years from 52 to 71. Now, back in the day, I was Brother Hunt's assistant pastor years ago. It was part of my early ministry, and I used to hear him talk about Doc Daffin and
People
all the.
still talk about.
Legendary. But 19 years, so you'd have to stay on another 10 years. It looked like you're going to be with us a while.
That's a long time, but I'm still having fun.
But you're young enough to do it.
I am. Still loving the job, and love the people I get to do it with. So we'll see.
How many is on staff at the Sheriff's Department, about, roughly?
So most people are real surprised to hear this, but about 580
Is that
employees.
right?
Yeah, that's why I don't have hair anymore.
That includes the jail and everything.
That's the jail and everything.
Yeah, that's a lot. And bailiffs at the courthouse,
we've got a lot
still
of,
supply that.
Yeah, the sheriffs have a lot of responsibilities that are different from, say, what a police department would have. We're an officer of the court, so we're responsible to maintain order in the court, which means I have about a 20 plus person unit at the courthouse that maintains security. They're there anytime court's in session. They maintain the security of the courthouse. All arrest warrants are issued in the name of the sheriff. So if somebody's an arrest warrant's issued by the judge, it's issued to the sheriff to serve. So I have a warrants division that processes that paperwork, and then we've got teams that go out into the community and arrest people on warrants.
500 and something people. That's a lot of people.
It's a lot.
Big staff of people. And you got the helicopter.
We do.
What other technology is the sheriff's office using these days? Or how much has technology changed what you do in the sheriff's office?
Technology is amazing, and we really leverage that to make Bay County safer. We created a concept about 3 years ago called the Bay Real-Time Operations Center. We referred to it as BayRock, and it's really changed the game for us on how we investigate and respond to crime. And it's a joint effort by our police departments and the sheriff's office, where we have a room, kind of a command center at the sheriff's office, or an operations center that has staffed by crime intelligence analysts, and they have resources such as license plate readers and access to variously publicly available cameras throughout the county.
Which are everywhere now.
Databases, other tools, social media monitoring tools. They look at the weather. They have a map. We've got a large screen up in BayRock, so they're able to monitor all of these almost like a NASA mission control.
Big room of screens. Is that at the sheriff's department?
At the sheriff's office. Yeah. And it's has really changed the game with how we do our job, and made us much more effective. And so when, let's say, for instance, if we have we were talking about a silver alert earlier. Yeah. One of our first success stories of BayRock, we were actually opening it up just with 2 analysts in a closet, and they were setting up their office on the first day, and we've got a license plate hit out of Jefferson County, and it was an elderly gentleman that had driven off. His family didn't know where he was. The sheriff's office couldn't find him in the county, so they entered a silver alert into the system, which then is uploaded into the license plate reader system. And as soon as he was coming down 231, we got an alert that this individual that was subject of a silver alert southbound on 231, we're able to coordinate with the Panama City Police Department. And within 5 minutes of getting that alert, we had him pulled over, safely recovered.
That's great.
It's a situation without that technology, it would have, he could have kept driving for, hundreds of miles. And, sometimes those situations ends in bad situations where they drive into a body of water or get lost in the woods.
Scary.
But the way that system works, it works off of a hot list. So if there's a stolen vehicle, amber alert, silver alert, wanted person, things of that nature, they're inputted into a hot list, which when the car goes by the license plate reader, it takes a photograph, runs it against that hot list, and then lets us know.
In real time.
So it's not that we're looking at the license plate readers and seeing, okay, there goes John by the license plate readers. It's basically comparing them against this hot list.
That's great. I actually had a situation years ago where I walked out of my kitchen into my garage, and there's a woman standing in my garage. Wow. And I said, hello. I thought she was going to knock on the door and ask me something. She's just standing there. I said, hello. She says, what can I help you with? And I says, I don't know. I said, what can I help you with? I said, you're here at my house? She says, no. She says, no, you came to my house. What can I help you with? So I went back in. I told Brandy, I said, Brandy, I said, come out here for a second, please, because I knew I was dealing with something unusual. And she said, can I help you, ma'am? And she says, no. She said, what do you all need? Why are you here? And I said, because we live here, And but I told my wife, I said, I know what's going on. I said, go back inside and call somebody. So she went and called I believe it was the sheriff's office. This was many years ago, and they immediately told me, said, man, we're looking for her. Just, keep her calm. Just keep talking to her till we can get there, because her family was looking for her. Yeah. It was a situation where the person had Alzheimer's and didn't really remember who they were, where they were. And of course, in her mind, she was at her house. I was the visitor. Right. And we were able to help her. But, it was scary, and it was eye-opening to us, because we thought, this could happen to anybody, anybody's family. And you hope they meet someone nice that will help them and take care of them, because they need help. They don't know where they are, and when the police officer got there, he told me that they had a report that she was walking down the middle of 390, which we live pretty close to that highway. And so they were thankful that she was at someone's house and she was safe. And there's all kind of situations. Everyone thinks the worst thing with cops and robbers. Like where they're chasing someone, but there's people that need help, and I know safety is a big part of what you all do. It's not just crime, but it's safety. It's keeping people safe.
Yeah. That reminds me of a story that, speaking of technology and that type of situation, we've got our helicopter, which has a forward-looking infrared camera on it, which is just amazing for finding people, whether it's bad guys that are running from us in the woods or lost people. We've had very good success with both, but we had a lady that walked away from a memory care facility there at the end of Arnold's Road out at the beach into that large tract of land to the north that goes, ends in the bay. And we were able to locate her with the infrared camera on the helicopter a couple of miles into the woods. We would never have found her without that technology. So it's I really enjoy that part of the job, and we're able to leverage advanced technology to help us do our job and make the community safer.
What's more helpful chasing a fugitive, the dog or the helicopter?
Combination of both.
You can't get away with that combination coming after you. You're not going to get away.
It's a lot more fun when the dog catches them. But.
So let me ask you this: 500 and something employees. So let me talk about your leadership style. I mean, that's a lot of. I know you got people that help you with it. It's not just you. You've got I don't know what the ranking is in the sheriff's department, but how many people in the head leadership that you would call like executive leadership, and what are the stages of people there? I know that.
So we've got what we call our command staff, which is the top leaders in the sheriff's office. Most of them command divisions. So we have like our criminal investigations division, have a West District, East District of Patrol. We've got a drug unit, a warrants division, the jail. So each of those have a division commander. So the rank structure is Joel Heap is my chief deputy. He's the second in command. He's been there a long time and just as always a great deputy and a great chief deputy. Then I have two majors. Major David Baldwin runs the law enforcement side of the house, and Major Rick Anglin, the jail, court services, the jail, and the courthouse. And then again, each division has a captain or a lieutenant that runs it. To include, that's having 580 people is like running a business as well. So we have a comptroller and an administration division that human resources, payroll. A central supply where deputies come in to get their supply.
Are you all under state insurance, like health insurance?
Oh, we have our own.
You have your own
health insurance.
Yeah, okay.
But a fleet manager, we've got probably 350 vehicles to maintain. We have a full shop behind the sheriff's office that can do everything from rebuilding an engine to painting a car. And
I didn't know that.
And rebuilding a wrecked vehicle. So.
Yeah, that's interesting. We're going to talk more. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
Heroes Child is a nonprofit organization that is on a mission to help community heroes with the everyday cost of childcare. We know that heroes like our military personnel, first responders, and foster families need care for their children. Heroes Child awards these families scholarships that go to help pay their childcare tuition. Use the QR code on the screen to donate now or visit heroeschild.org today.
Hey, this is John Ramsey. We're back. I've got my special guest, Sheriff Tommy Ford, and we were talking about technology and how the changes have come with technology. All the DNA stuff is done FDLE, so that's done by the state and stuff. Is that something that's really utilized? Are they better at it? Because watching the TV shows, now they're saying they can just off a little micro anything.
That technology is always evolving, and FDLE stays at the cutting edge with that, and we use their lab every day for evidence, whether it's for a homicide or to a burglary, to a theft. We use their services. Really great story on DNA that we just actually solved a case, and I'm going to fumble on some of the details of it. But there were remains found in Fountain, and this would have been, if I remember right, the late 70s.
Oh, my goodness.
And of course, the technology, it was just skeletal remains. The technology didn't really exist to extract that and analyze that in any meaningful form. But we recently formed a cold case unit at the sheriff's office, and it's got retired law enforcement and prosecutors. Bill Lewis, who was the interim sheriff for a while, serves on it. Major Jimmy Stanford, who just retired from us, serve on it. So they started looking at cases like this, and we had no idea who this person was. we sent some samples back to the lab to get them to try to extract DNA using new technologies, which they were able to do. And they uploaded that in what's called CODIS, which is this national database of DNA profiles. And it did not hit on a specific person, but it hit on what we call a familial match.
Yeah.
And this was a relative of a missing person out in Texas who had submitted DNA under one of these programs that does that for lost and missing people. And the analysts were able to do a family tree and found this to be a lady that went missing again, I think it was the late 70s.
Yes.
And the circumstances were that her husband, and her 9-year-old son, I think, left Texas to go to Georgia to visit family. The son was murdered in, I believe, South Carolina. The remains were found in a lake.
Goodness.
There. She was never found. The husband, shortly thereafter, committed suicide in a hotel room somewhere. But she's been missing all of these years.
Wow.
So through this new technology, we're able to identify her as being the missing third party from that, and give some closure to the families. Again, was not a criminal case. There was nobody to prosecute because.
But
what happened is the
Yeah.
husband had killed his wife and the child.
Terrible.
I know that this story goes against the good news of this podcast.
But it's good that you got some resolution out
absolutely.
of it and gave some people some peace that probably wanted to know what happened to their loved one.
But even 3 to 5 years ago, that technology would not have existed.
It's amazing. I watched on one of the channels about them catching the Golden State Killer, and he had become an old man and had stopped. He was a serial killer, but had stopped killing for years and blended into society. But years. Even though his crimes were in the 70s and a little bit in the early 80s, that technology caught up with him. Mm-hmm. And because they had his DNA, it was just a matter of time. And it was really a relative putting their DNA in that led them to him.
Yeah,
they said, we know this is the family tree. Now, who in that family tree lived in this area during those areas? Exactly. Boom, there he was, and arrested him.
And I tell you, that's always the kind of a challenge that we have when we're working some of the cold cases is, you may have just a limited sample of blood or other type of sample that can be submitted. And we sometimes ask the question, do we use this up and submit it now under today's technology? Well, what happens in 5 years and 10 years when the technology is even greater?
Yeah, it is amazing. And I think that when you have that change in technology, we don't really know what's coming. We don't know what's coming. How does that work? Let me ask you a constitutional question. When someone's arrested, do they have to give their DNA? Is that a part of the processing of booking someone into custody?
So on certain crimes, it is. It's primary felony crimes, and I'd have to catch up on the statute on what it is. But there are
take a mouth
crimes
swab.
that we take a swab, and that's entered in what I referred to earlier as CODIS, which gives us a database to search unknown samples from. So a lot of times we will, let's say somebody cut their finger committing a burglary on broken glass, and our crime scene unit came out, we're able to take a swab of that blood. Well, that gets sent to FDLE. They run it into CODIS, and it may be somebody that was arrested 5 years ago for burglary that would not even have been a suspect in that case, but we're able to solve that case based on their DNA profile being in CODIS. And finding a sample at the crime scene, it gives us another lead to go. But it's certainly, a lot of privacy issues and concerns with that. But the legal standing of it right now is that if you've been convicted of certain crimes, felonies primarily, at the courthouse, we will take a DNA swab.
Yeah. I had heard years ago, I don't know if this is still the case or if it was accurate information, that the last number on your driver's license is your felony number. Like if it says, of course mine's a 0, I've never committed a felony. But if you know the highway
see
patrol,
you drive
is
away.
that good? Yeah. But I mean, is that correct? Is that right or wrong?
Do you know? I don't know.
Really?
That's a good question.
I stumped the sheriff. I don't, but no, I thought it was
Let me check
I thought it was a
ChatGPT.
highway patrol that told me that. I thought it was, and you know, and they said that's why, you know, when they're dealing with someone's got a 1 or 2 or 3 at the very end of their license. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but you know, it's
It's a
interesting.
great idea if it's not true.
Well, you know, there's a lot to law enforcement, and I always feel like. I don't feel like law enforcement really gets the recognition they should. I know it's not a super high paying job, and the danger, the daily grind of, you know, wearing all that equipment, 100-degree heat,
tough job.
having to run through the woods. I mean, it's a tough job, and they're not the highest paid people in the world.
You're right.
And so you have to love it and really have it in your heart to do it, or you wouldn't do it.
Absolutely. It requires a lot of heart and dedication, and those of us that do it, you know, we couldn't see ourselves doing anything else.
Are all your are your deputies cross trained in the safety thing? Like I know for years Lynn Haven had their fire department and their police department was both trained in safety, CPR of course, and the basic stuff like that.
We certainly train in what was called first responder medical
first responder,
response, which is, you know, below an EMT level, but we are very frequently the first person
people
on
there.
a scene.
Yeah.
And so we're trained to conduct life-saving measures. We carry, each of our patrol vehicles have a defibrillator in it.
Yeah.
So our people respond first most of the time. And if somebody is in cardiac arrest, they begin CPR. They put the AED on, which hopefully shocks them, gets them back into rhythm. So we get quite a few saves that way. So
Yeah.
it's important to have those capabilities, but they're not EMTs or paramedics.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
we train them extensively on tactical medicine. For instance, if they were to get shot or they would come upon somebody with a gunshot wound, they have the kits to tourniquets and things of that nature to help
Try
stop
to keep them
bleeding
alive till help can get there.
Absolutely. But the
And
real
medical
professionals
attention.
for that are our EMTs and paramedics.
It's amazing, but you have answer all kind of calls that you never know the situation you're going into. I remember one night years ago, I used to every once in a while ride with Greg Peel on patrol when he was late at night. And I don't know if you still let people do that or not, but they would let us back in the day. They would let us, you know, a citizen patrol. We'd ride, and so we were way out on 231, and we heard this big. We were stopped at a light, and we heard this big thud, and I said, "Man, what was that?" And, you know, I thought it was the train or something. He said, "No, that was 2 cars hitting." He could just tell by the sound. I said, "Really?" I said, "You can tell by the sound?" He said, "I'm telling you, that was 2 cars hitting." So we drove up just a little further up the road, and sure enough, there's this person sitting in the middle of the road. And he says, "Oh man," he starts looking around and he says, "There's 1 car." He said, "John, help me find that other car." So we're looking around. And so we pull up, he throws the lights on, we block the road. He said, sit here with this. He said, "I've already called the ambulance and some backup." He said, "But sit here, don't let him get up because he's hurt." You know, and he was hurt. And he said, "I got to find this other car." So he's talked spotlight. He finally sees this car in the woods. They had hit, and one had flew off the road. But it's just like, you know, from a split second, you're thrown into this emergency, you know, where you're trying to keep these people alive and you're trying to help them, trying to make sure no one else drives up on this person in the middle of the road. Because a lot of people don't realize that when you're in a car wreck at night, the first thing is your lights are knocked out. So the next people coming behind you can't see you.
Right.
And that's so important that a patrolman gets there and gets some lights on the situation and diverts the traffic so they don't, you know, create a pile up or something like that. But you never know. Every night's different.
That is. Every minute's different. There's a saying, you know, hours of sheer boredom followed by a minute of complete terror. I mean, we see some very terrible situations, some very critical situations that we have to take very quick action on and make decisions in a split second that are sometimes life and death decisions. But we train our deputies for that. We try to pick the right people to do that, and they have my utmost respect. That's one of the reasons I still love this job is the people that do it. My respect for them. And, I feel like my job is taking care of them.
I think a lot of people are critical of police, but they're making split-second decisions
Yeah.
that could cost them their life.
Absolutely.
They're. I've always heard that domestic calls were the most dangerous. Is that accurate, or
It is.
Is it?
It can be very,
people volatile?
very, it's a very high emotions and high stakes for the victims. And then sometimes, you can, when we get there to take action, sometimes the victim may not want to follow through with prosecution. And a lot of that is, being psychologically held, they're being psychologically held hostage. So we have moved to a evidence-based approach on things like domestic violence cases, where it used to be you would go to one and the victim would not want to press charges. That's not really a factor for us anymore, because
If you see
look at the
injuries.
evidence. If we see injuries, we go back and pull the 911 call, and if they make an admission about what happened, or we see the evidence, we've got independent witnesses, because those are life and death situations, and somebody that stays in that abusive relationship could end up losing their life. So we sometimes have to, again, take an evidence-based approach, as opposed to, okay, the victim said they didn't want to cooperate or didn't want to press charges, we're going to leave. It's to keep people alive and get them out of that dangerous situation.
Yeah, I know that when you're in that situation, you're having to make that call of what do you do. Does the deputy make that decision?
Mm-hmm.
Look, I'm going to go ahead and break these people. I'm going to go and separate these people and let them cool down or whatever, and take someone in.
Yeah.
So, do you have to call the state attorney, or do they have the jurisdiction?
Deputies have.
If you feel like someone's in danger, they can make that call.
Yeah, deputies have the option and the ability to evaluate evidence in a case and make a charge on it. Then it does get sent to the state attorney's office. State attorney may look at it and say, this is not something we can prosecute it. And then there's other cases, which we call review cases, where a deputy may go and it's a mutual combat situation, and there's two sides to the story, and they're getting differing stories. We can complete a report and send that to the state attorney's office for review. They'll review that and say, we do think there's enough evidence to proceed with a case, and they'll send that back to us to get a warrant on the case. So there are kind of two ways to do it, but we certainly give our deputies a lot of discretion in making good decisions, and based on their training and experience and the law, to make the right decision.
What's the worst situation or worst crisis you've been involved in your time in Bay County? What was the one that really kept you up that night?
There's been a few of them, but without a doubt, it was the active shooter situation off of Beck Avenue that was early May of 2018. It was
Could have been a lot of people
very
hurt.
intense. We had a lot of law enforcement officers that were pinned down by gunfire. The individual.
The person was in a second-story apartment.
Elevated. It's our tactical nightmare. When it's an
Looking
elevated
down on
position,
you.
and in an apartment complex on one of the busier roads in the county.
Cars driving by.
Couldn't be more proud of how we responded and how the men and women that responded that day took care of that
Was
situation.
that your SWAT team?
So,
Or do you have a SWAT team?
Oh yes, sir. We've got one of the three regional domestic security SWAT teams for the Panhandle of Florida. So we've got a really what we call high speed, low drag team, and certainly members of the team were there that day and helped in that.
How did that start? Was you serving a warrant, or what? How did that?
Actually, a murder over in Walton County.
Really?
This subject was estranged from his wife. I think she had another boyfriend. He went over there to Walton County, killed the boyfriend, came back to his apartment, and he poured gasoline all over the apartment. And at that point, Walton County had developed him as a suspect and called our criminal investigations division and asked them. He said, "Hey, we don't have enough to arrest him yet. He looks like he's the suspect. Can y'all do surveillance on him?" So we had 5 or 6 of the guys go over and set up on this apartment. A neighbor smelled gasoline and called the fire department, unbeknownst to the deputies that were sitting there. So a fire truck shows up, and that's shortly thereafter is when the gunfire erupted.
Wow. So he had killed someone in that apartment.
He had killed somebody in Walton County.
And came there.
And came.
Wow. So the fire truck kind of blows your cover like that. They're there for another emergency. And he opened fire.
Right.
Did anyone get hurt that day besides him? Or?
There was a lady that was fleeing from her apartment very early in the incident that had a fairly minor injury. But we had deputies and officers from Panama City that were pinned down behind cars until we were able to get at the time, we didn't really have a good armored vehicle. We had the professional ones that we have now it's called a Bearcat. It's professionally made for that. We had an old bank truck that we outfitted, and we called it the Pussycat. So we rolled in with that, and I remember being in the back of that as we were pulling the officers and deputies out, and somebody mentioned to me that we had up armored everything except the roof where he would have been shooting. And so somebody reminded me that during the incident, and I was like, oh well, we're here now.
Situation. That's nuts. So, were you able to? I don't remember the outcome. Did it take him in, or was he killed? Or
so, in an exchange of gunfire with us, he was hit in the hand, and we found him in the back bedroom. There was a flare on the bed with a lot of blood around it. What had happened is he had taken off his hand. He had gone back there to light the flare and throw it downstairs and blow the apartment up. But he ended up taking his own life before that occurred.
Terrible. Very, very tragic.
We're straying greatly from your positive
podcast.
All right.
That's all right. Well, that's all right. We're gonna take a break. We'll be right back.
Are you ready to connect your organization with an audience that is eager for inspiration? The My Big Comeback podcast, hosted by John R. Ramsey, shares powerful stories of resilience and redemption, featuring guests who have turned life setbacks into major comebacks. New episodes drop the 1st and 15th of every month. For those interested in being a part of this community, sponsorship opportunities are now available. To learn more, contact Meredith Cobb at meredithcobbhwc@gmail.com. Let's make a big comeback together.
Hey, John Ramsey with My Big Comeback. I'm talking with Sheriff Tommy Ford. Let me talk about not Sheriff Ford, but let me talk about Tommy just a minute. So you went to West Florida, and so what's some of your give me a Tommy Ford bucket list. Do you travel much, Tommy? But
I have ignored that my whole life.
Yeah.
And my wife, it's time for me to start doing that.
Yeah.
And we have just started doing some traveling. We're empty nesters. Our daughter Jessica moved up to New York City, of all places.
New York City, it's a big
living
move.
there by herself, and
Have
really
you been to see her yet?
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
She works right in Rockefeller Center. At
Wow,
a
right in the middle
store
of it.
doing
What does she do?
Events and marketing.
That's fantastic.
For a record.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Label, so a record store. She's enjoying it up there. But Kathy and I have started going on trips. We just went after the election, this past election. We were a little tired and needed a vacation. We did one of the Viking cruises on the Rhine River.
Oh, so you went to Europe?
We did.
That's fantastic.
Really enjoyed it.
That's beautiful. How did you like that cruise?
Loved it.
You feel like you were? I mean, when they port, do you get to go for the day or do you stay overnight?
So the river cruises are like a floating hotel. You pretty much travel at night and you wake up in another port city, and your ship's kind of like a nice hotel. You can do what you want to do in the city and come back to the ship. So they call it a thinking man's cruise instead of a drinking man's cruise. There's no casinos or pools or anything.
It's just more or less your hotel.
Yeah, it is. And we have really.
How about the language barrier? I mean, were they all to speak English good?
So in Europe, it wasn't bad at all. We were mostly in France and Germany and the Netherlands. My wife's brother lives in the Netherlands, so we got to visit family over there. Good. So I'm really excited about doing some more traveling and taking her on the trips she deserves to go.
She deserves to go. You need to take her some places.
She's made a lot of sacrifices over my past 30 years because of the career, and so we are. I don't think really enjoying that.
People know how much a police officer's family suffers. I mean, they go through a lot of anxiety. When your loved one is out there on the line, a lot of anxiety,
a lot of missed birthdays and Christmases, and a lot of anxiety, and when they know something bad's going on and know that their loved ones out there, they're taking care of it. But it certainly makes us appreciate our families.
Well, like the hurricane. I mean, y'all were nonstop for weeks.
We were.
Weeks. I mean, I talked to one of my deputy friends, and they said, "Man, it's just been 24 hours a day. Just sleep a little bit at the office or the car,
Yeah,
and keep going.
2 years into being sheriff, and I was like, "What in the world have I got myself into?"
That was the event of the century for Bay County. It really was.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. The statistic is that you have effects from a major storm about every 20 years. And if you look at the history, Opal and Michael, about 23 years apart, which is pretty accurate. So we're 7 years after this hurricane. There's another one coming, maybe not a direct hit, but we'll have the effects.
Will I be able to beat that record before?
Yeah, I don't know. You might. 19 years, you're on a good start with it. What about other hobbies? You play golf, you fish,
I play a little.
You hunt.
Play a little guitar.
Do you really?
Yeah, enjoy.
I should have had you bring
guitars.
it. We could have played a little bit. Yeah.
But I played for the worship team for North Star for 3 years.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. See, play rhythm or lead?
Terrible. Mostly rhythm.
Yeah, that's great.
Younger kids up there playing the fancy stuff.
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't know you were a guitar player.
I'm not really. I just do it for myself, for my own enjoyment. So
you sing with the worship?
I do not sing.
You do not sing. No. You just kind of play some rhythm and stuff. Guitar, the only instrument you play?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I can play Hill Street Blues on the piano.
Hill Street Blues on the piano. Yeah, that's a good. Now you're dating yourself because they're
a good cop show.
Yeah, a good cop show. Do you feel like that most police officers have to have that release to process the psychological part of the job?
Yeah, I think in order to have a healthy life, they do, and that's something
you got to break free sometime.
Yeah. So something I'm really glad to see in our profession for many years, probably the 20 or 25 of my 30 years, the profession really ignored the mental health of our people. And we're really starting to wake up to that. And I say it's probably been more than 5 years, probably over the last 8 to 10 years, where we're really trying to focus on wellness and resilience for our people and have different services available to them, people they can call and talk to, classes that we bring in on how to have a more happy and productive life outside of the job. We've got something I'm really proud of. It's called the Critical Incident Stress Management Team, and it's a group of senior members of the department that really have a heart for their fellow officers, and they're basically like peer counselors. So if we've got some deputies that go to, say, the death of a baby or go to a bad car crash or something like that, this team will reach out to those deputies and say, "Hey, brother, I'm here for you. If you need anything, I'm here to talk." And then they also know of our resources that we have, like our employee assistance program. And then we work with certain, counselors, second alarm project, things like that, if it becomes more serious than just needing to talk to a friend, we can refer them to resources.
It's a heavy job. And I can see the psychological weight that's on some of these guys and men and women that serve in the field. And I imagine I don't know how long you can do it. I don't know how long you could do it, without it affecting your family. So I'm glad they get some help with that. So let me ask you this: what's Tommy read? What do you read these days?
So the latest book I read was the Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek, and really great quote from that. Leadership is not about being in charge; it's about taking care of those in your charge. And I feel that way about the men and women of the sheriff's office, and also the community. I feel personal responsibility to do everything I can to make sure that our community is safe, and that the men and women at the sheriff's office have the resources that they need, and that we're looking out after them, we're caring for them. And I really came to that realization during Hurricane Michael. We talked about what an event that was, but I had 60 deputies that lost their homes and were displaced during Hurricane Michael, and the others that had a lot of damage and other issues we all faced were out working 24/7 during that time period. Yeah. And I felt overwhelmed about, I'm sheriff, I'm responsible for all of this, but I realized that if I take care of them, give them what they need, provide them services and support that they need, they're going to be out there in the community taking care of the citizens. So really,
can you imagine a guy on patrol out here trying to manage the chaos of Hurricane Michael? The street lights are down, the roads are blocked,
awful.
Everything's destroyed, and he can't even go home and take a shower. because his home is destroyed.
Right.
I mean, that's it was just a big event, and we lost our church in the storm. Thankfully, our house, we lived over in Kings Point at that time, and we had one room in our house damaged, and we were so thankful. We just bisqueened it off and said, just stay out of that room till whenever, because it was over a year before we could even get started on fixing the house. But
as bad as that was, the way our community responded to it is just amazing. How resilient our community is, and people helping people, and certainly hope that never happens.
I had neighbors that I had never met that we became friends during Hurricane Michael, because we were lending each other charcoal, grill stuff, and food, canned goods, just whatever we could to make sure everybody was taken care of. And I felt so ashamed that I didn't know them till crisis. That we had lived by each other for a while, and even though we waved, we really had never walked over and spent any time with them. But we went door to door and asked, what do you guys need? Here's what I've got. And we kind of pulled our stuff together to make sure everyone had something to eat. And
trade you some beanie weenies. Sausage. Right?
I'd never made ravioli on the grill before Hurricane Michael, but it's like give me some kind of pot and put it on there and warm it up and stuff. So when I know that a lot of young people look at, just like your story of being a little boy and wanting that little uniform, you aspired to be a police officer. What when young people are looking at becoming law enforcement, what's the best advice you could give them?
You got to have a heart for it and realize that the sacrifices you're going to make, but there is no better profession in the world for truly helping people. But we see people in the worst day of their life, and some professions, some people only have the ability to, once a month, once a year, once in a lifetime to truly help your fellow man. And law enforcement, several times per shift, you're doing things that impact people's lives every single day.
Every day.
Not to say that it doesn't take a toll on you, especially if you don't look out for things that may harm your psyche or your emotionally and mentally. But every day you're getting an opportunity to help people. And if somebody comes into this profession with that attitude of, hey, I'm going to be able to help somebody every day, they're in the right place.
Yeah. What kind of resources would you like to see at the Bay County Sheriff's Office? Do you have everything you need?
We're blessed with a great county commission. They have a strategic plan that they put. We've got one at the Sheriff's Office, but the county puts one together that all the commissioners put together. And their number one goal is to maintain public safety in Bay County. And they really follow through that. We've got a good commission, a good county manager that prioritizes public safety, and we're blessed in that regard.
That's great.
I always, want to see our people paid adequately, and we've made a lot of headway on that. Still got a ways to go, but I think that's probably always something that we probably never be able to pay them what they deserve.
You're preaching to the choir, because I believe that teachers and police officers don't get what they deserve. They really don't. And to be some people that you're going to need every day, you need them every day. That you don't get enough.
We've made a lot of progress on that, but always have to keep our foot on the gas to make sure that they're.
Is the jail part of your budget, or is it a separate budget?
Yeah.
It's all under the sheriff's department.
$68 million budget.
$68 million budget.
Accounting degree comes in kind of handy with that. Of course, I've got a great
$68 million budget and over 500 employees.
580.
You got a big job, almost 600 employees.
That's why I don't have hair anymore.
You got a big job. That's a big job. That's a big job. What would you like to see Bay County have more of? And not even just Sheriff's Department, but as a county as a whole. What do we need more of in Bay County?
Unity.
Unity, yeah.
I think we've that sense of unity that we had after the storm and is fracturing in certain places, and I'd really it's sad to see, really, and I'd like to see us come back together.
I'd like to see that too. I think that I always teach that the most important thing, when they asked Jesus what the most important commandment was, He said, number one is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And number two is a whole lot like that one. It's love your neighbor as yourself.
Yep.
So love God and love people. And, it's how we treat people. We'd like it where we never had to call law enforcement, never needed it, that everyone policed themselves and
We'd
didn't,
like that too.
didn't do stuff that hurt their neighbors,
Yeah.
didn't do stuff that infringed on their neighbors. And, we always hope that people will all be better to one another and help one another. I could talk to you all day. I think we're about out of time, but I'm
certainly
going to have to have you back on because there's a few subjects I didn't get to touch on, but I like the conversation and I appreciate what you do for Bay County.
Thank you, John.
Thanks for being
Appreciate
with
it.
us.
Thank you.
Thank you.